This video is about the African roots of martial arts, and it's about liberals. Again, I'm not a conservative. Just the way that the liberal movement is, I'm probably considered more of a liberal, a Christian liberal who wants to conserve Christian values, but wants to change other aspects of the government. I would rather be a slave than let the New World Order bring in the New World Order. So, I don't agree with the Age of Enlightenment. I have some family members who are vegans and, progressives and LGBT friendly. They're not gay themselves, but they support gay rights. My mom's a feminist and so on. And some family member that I'm not at liberty to say who says that the Age of Enlightenment is the best thing that ever happened to America. With that being said, the African roots of martial arts is the truth. And a martial artist should be concerned with the truth. Okay, now if you want to concede that a bunch of secret societies have infiltrated martial arts, then don't play stupid and try to present it as some sort of a wholesome system similar to the ancient African combat art traditions. So I think using the term martial arts is a misleading term. It is occult philosophies hidden in stolen martial arts or combat arts, traditional combat arts philosophies from Africa. Another way to look at it is that a martial artist is a Babylonian student of combat arts. Even Confucius was given his name by the Jesuits. Confucius' family name was Kong Kui. His courtesy name was Zhang Ni. In Chinese, he's known as Kongzi quite often. Also given the name Kong Fuzi, Grandmaster Kong. So, in this aspect, he's considered a martial artist, though he rejected martial arts systems himself. In the Wade-Gill system of Romanization, this is key now, it is rendered as Kung Fu Zu. The Latinized name Confucius is derived from Kong Fuzi. It was first coined by the 16th century Jesuit missionaries to China, most probably by Matteo Ricci. This is all Wikipedia, the sources, check out. Now, the highest level of honor in martial arts is accepting the African roots, not pretending, not giving the Buddhists, the Buddhists or the Hindus rather, credit, but going back to the start. As you can see on the screen, Beni Hassan is the oldest depiction of martial arts. This is relevant for many reasons. Not only does common sense tell you it started in Africa, but don't you think there would be an earlier depiction elsewhere if it was held in such high esteem as it was in Africa? Of course, fighting arts were a part of other cultures, but it's a no-brainer to come to the conclusion that they originated in Africa, as did man. So to pretend that it started somewhere else is racist, really. It's racist. It's like we all know that Africans have been fighting and carrying spears for Lord knows how long. But we're going to pretend that magically some outside people taught these primitive people who expelled them without any combat arts how to fight. Just stupid, just nonsensical. Anyway, so to submit to a martial arts system, a Romanized version of Eastern martial arts, especially, or even, the common kind of Chinese Mason influenced secret society martial arts systems, or even the Shaolin Temple itself, is to submit to secret societies that are straight from Babylon and that are affiliated with Babylon. It's not very honorable. Speaking of honor, losing with honor versus losing without honor. Like trying to lie about what happened, trying to pretend you are better. You're only truly defeated when you lose with dishonor. All right, so that about covers that. So let me get to the liberal part of this video, shall we? I'm going to do a little, make a little joke of it, even though it's very serious, just to help you understand. Oh, we're liberals and we're vegans and we're trying to save the world, by killing the people. We even kill our own kids. That's why we're pro-choice. And our Satanist friends say that you don't have to convince me to be pro-choice. I'm 10 steps ahead of you. I've already got a baby on the altar right now I'm about to sacrifice. So, everything is on the up and up. When it comes to mental health, we came to the conclusion a long time ago that the best way to ensure mental health in the general population is to soft kill the mental patients. Many of them are given drugs that, activate certain pleasure centers of the brain and manipulate serotonin levels and dopamine and what have you, so they enjoy it. Most of them don't connect the drugs to their death, so we've got all the legal angles covered. The judges are in our pocket anyway. They're the same, secret societies that we're in. They never really see it coming, and they believe that it's a natural death, so it keeps this idea of us doing things in a natural way. Of course, we're not going to admit where the real philosophies came from. The same reason the martial arts artists aren't going to. Because if we admit that it comes from Africa, people will want to take on an African philosophy. And if we haven't thoroughly twisted and tempered it with it, they will come to the conclusion that selfishness is despicable and that what we're doing is sick and superficial and it's very Eurocentric, it's very ethnocentric, and we can't have that. So we're going to just soft kill these people, and because we're humanists, we're not going to shoot them in the head. Oh gosh, no, never. What do you take us for? We're just going to soft kill millions of people. I mean, people abuse animals anyway, right? We're all animals, except people are the most inconsiderate and abusive animal that pollutes the earth. So we've got to save the trees. We've got to reduce the deforestation. We've got to reduce the pollutants in the air. And the best way to do that is by killing the people. I mean, we can't just simply take on a Christian philosophy, because then women aren't going to be pushing men around. We can't have that. We've got to have equality here. At the price of millions of people's lives every year, it's fine. Because it's important for women to feel empowered. We've been housewives for so long. They actually want us to raise the kids that we brought into this world. We want to live our lives, And instead of having, some teenage girl do it, practicing for later in life, babysitting, let's have teenage boys do it. Equality is important. Unisex bathrooms, what have you. We'll push vegan and vegetarian lifestyles as well, to minimize cruelty to the animals. And I know it's kind of hypocritical for us to avoid the topic of drugging, because drugging animals is part of animal abuse. But we avoid it because we don't want people to think along the lines of don't drug life forms, because then they're going to see the hypocrisy in our unholy alliance with mental health. We can't have that. Gosh, no, we can't have that. We've got to maintain a certain level of respect in the community for them to adopt our rather disingenuous and disreputable philosophies. And our main philosophy, rather. So, now that you understand all that, I'd like you to tell your children to take their medicine. Teach them what it means to be socially normative and to have a normal, healthy life, with healthy relationships, with people who don't think in a way that is oppressive to women or gays. Because the Enlightenment was so great, we had our Women's March on Versailles, and we kind of liberated everybody. The gays were allowed to, kiss each other in public, and, it became more socially normative. Now we have this huge percentage, like 1 in 4 men in France are now gay, and it helps us control the population. It's so wonderful. And we released the stigma, we minimized the stigma on the Jews. Now they take over the banks, and, they fund our movements, and they honor our unholy alliance from the past, And of course, we all cook the books and make ourselves seem smarter naturally, but we're the ones who ensure that this continues. It's for the future of Jews, whites, and Asians especially, you know? I mean, yes, we have to deny the truth about Africa and downplay their achievements, but you got to look at it this way. When you combine the whites, Asians, and Jews, we're like the majority of the world. We're like at least half of the world, you know? There's not that many black people in the world compared to Asians, whites, and Jews. You know? And yes, of course, if we adopted Christianity or an African philosophy, that the world would be better than what we're doing. We know that. But then we would have to all look up to these African people. You know? We can't have that. We just can't. They ruled over us for thousands of years. They expelled us. Why would we then turn around and accept their oppression? It's the same thing with Christianity. They oppressed us witches and pagans. They didn't want us to sacrifice kids. Well, now we are aborting millions of fetuses every year. And they can't stop us. You know, it's vengeful, yeah, it's petty, and we pretend to be liberals that care, but we all have complexes. And we decided long ago that we should indulge our complexes and take it out on Christians and Africans. The people who oppressed us in the past. These big, strong, manly black men. If we look up to these people, then we're going to have to look up to warriors, and then where are we going to be left? A bunch of geeky white people. A bunch of small, frail Asians, and a bunch of weakling Jews. White Jews, particularly. It's just not going to be fair to us. We have to lie. We have to cheat. Or no one's going to respect us. And yes, I know, according to the Christian perspective, it's evil, but we're just going to confuse people. You know, I mean, Satan is the liberator anyway, right, guys? You know? He's the one who makes us feel good. He's the one who makes us feel like a humanist is supposed to. Not like those oppressive Christians and those two manly black guys with their big cocks and big muscles and intense energy. Where would we be left if we didn't lie? What would it mean for us? The victims of the righteous, what would it mean for us? So when you go to the history of martial arts, even Wikipedia understands the history of martial arts. The first tab on Wikipedia is early history. And then it starts with Africa, before Asia. An Egyptian fresco depicting military training at Beni Hassan is the world's oldest known artistic expression of an organized fighting system. In gymnasiums similar to those of Greece, recruits would practice wrestling, calisthenics, and dueling with single stick. The attacking weapon apparently had a basket guard protecting the hand, while the left forearm had a splint strap to serve as a shield. Soldiers fought with spears, large shields, with an eye hole, clubs, axes, poleaxes, flails, bows, slings, and swords of various forms. The introduction of Islam eventually brought Arabic weapons, armor, and fighting styles to North Africa. So, it is quite clear that the depiction you see on the screen was African. Now keep in mind, sticks were part of it. These are transferable skills. Now when you look at the evolution of grappling and wrestling in Africa, it makes it clear that wrestling served as a form of battlefield training because of certain principles of lifting things and what have you. It also served as a form of settling scores and, as a sport, performed with, champions from different villages to win honor and respect for the villages. But the highest form of martial arts was always weapons. I don't think I need to explain that to you. One was much better off killing his enemies quickly and effectively and moving on to the next one than catching somebody trying to hit them with a weapon and taking them down. If you're not fast enough to catch them you won't take them down, you will die. There are little kids, I'm sure, that could tell you these things. So therefore, the highest form of martial arts are the percussive skills. Striking. That is why they strike the drum. In capoeira, they play the instruments, or they strike the instruments with their fingers and hands. It is very apparent. In Africa, which, remember, they weren't called martial arts. This is something, the white man put a name to it and then presented a way that was favorable to his agenda. And the whites, Jews, and Asians, for whatever reason, I've explored them in other videos, came together and used their definitions of things to give them the upper hand. That is why these same lowly cowards will say despicable things like, my top martial artist challenge isn't fair. Isn't fair? It isn't fair. Well, let's look at traditionally. You see people sparring in Beni Hassan traditionally. Now, if you didn't want to hurt your opponent, you didn't hit him hard. So when you apply honor to modern technology while maintaining the same transferable set of skills that were being displayed in Beni Hassan, you get sparring. It is a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. And in that very video, I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt because I don't know. I suspect he's a secret society guy. His video was recommended for me by YouTube, which tends to, for whatever reason, recommend me videos to lead me astray. It was uploaded by Eric Wilson 7. One quick glance at the picture, it looks like he is the same guy in the video. I can't really tell. And it is, to me, it is very despicable that all these groups of people play stupid while talking about honor. They have redefined what martial arts is, and made it some kind of pagan occult nonsense where you have to submit to a bunch of secret society sellouts from every race. And they have also redefined honor to allow them to cheat the greatest martial artists out of their rightful position in society. Positions, rather. I mean, come on. So therefore, it behooves the righteous man of God to set the record straight. Nothing is more insulting to the people who civilize the rest of the world than pretending that they are further from God and less civilized than everyone else, especially when these very people outperform you in academics, in your own language, in your own country. And you put yourselves above us. The white man's history is a greater lie than the white man's news. I mean, if they lie to you about the news in a way that's favorable to the white establishment, the Jewish international financiers, and the countless rich Asian people with their, in all their secret societies, then what the hell makes you think that they're not lying to you about history? Of course they are. That, of course, is why the LGBT community twists history and fabricates just like everyone else, because they're trying to redefine things in a way that is favorable to them. So now I would venture to say that when Africans define things, and when people listen to Africans with no ulterior motive and no whitewashing that did not belong to Freemasonry or any other white secret society or white establishment-controlled secret society or white occult-controlled secret society, the world was so much better off. I mean, so much better off. We didn't have psychiatry killing 500,000 people annually in Western countries alone. We didn't have 100 million preventable deaths every year. We had natural deaths, not very straightforward preventable deaths, but natural deaths, as it was meant to be. So you can say, well, I'm an Afrocentric or something. Everything I'm saying is proven definitively. Nothing they're saying is proven definitively. These are the facts here. I'm half white, half black. I'm not in any secret society. I live with my fucking parents. They're hiding from my challenge, which is a traditional, honorable challenge, while they're redefining things in a way that favors the secret society trained sissy. Not to mention their judges and referees, right, are their butt buddies in the secret societies as well. It doesn't take a genius to realize that a man of God is not given a fair shake in a godless mental health system. That a man of God is not given a fair shake in a godless secret society run martial arts system of sports and staged martial arts competitions. So we put it on camera, we do it traditionally, and I pay all expenses. $25 to show, $3,000 if you can beat me, and it's all on camera for everybody to see. It's called being fair, something you people don't understand. It's called tradition, something you people don't understand because you live a lie. You're liars that live a lie, just like your quote-unquote God, your little g God, the devil, the great deceiver. You live a lie. You are deceivers. You will never give Africa. Anyone who doesn't give Africa the credit for martial arts is a deceiver. Anyone who doesn't acknowledge that it was black Africans that came up with these martial arts systems and expelled all other races is an ethnocentric deceiver. Nothing short of it. People don't walk thousands and thousands of miles not knowing where they're going, not sent by any empire, and establish a new place for no reason. All around the world to this day, we see people migrate. You know what a refugee is? I'll give you a hint. It's not somebody who had the power to stay and fight and hold his ground and stand his ground. It is somebody who is fleeing because they are expelled. Now, I'm not saying that that makes them a bitch or something. In today's society, where there's guns, it doesn't make you a bitch. But in the society of old, when it was natural combat, it doesn't necessarily make you a bitch either. But it does make you incapable of standing your ground. Every country in this world was inhabited by refugees. Period. Anyone who says otherwise is a motherfucking liar. If it wasn't like that, then the African empires in the ancient world, tens of thousands of years ago, would have maintained contact and control over their colonies abroad. They didn't have the transportation network to do so. It was impractical and unreasonable to do so. The only way they could get there, and the only reason they would get there, is if they were expelled and they were refugees looking for a new place to lay their heads. Like it or not, hate me or not, whether it ruffles your feathers or challenges your reverent power or not, that is the truth. You know, that word that you people know nothing about. You live lies, you empower these little slutty whores, and you ignore the truth. I'm a man of God. Why on earth would I play stupid about the truth, about what is divine, about what is wrong with the world, and about the fact that Africans civilized and taught every other race the foundation of every quote-unquote science we have today? These are the people who were simply inspired by nature and God and gave us everything. You think it's a coincidence the Indians were black and the Hindus, brought, created, an Indian came to China and so on, and Tibet, and started teaching these people Buddhism, and they spread through these 8 places? You think it's a coincidence? Look up the Dravidian people. You think it's a coincidence that the Africans are bigger than the Indians, bigger and stronger? You had the little guys who left a little bit later, okay? They went to fucking India, and they joined the people who had migrated a little bit earlier. A little bit earlier, my friend. We came earlier. These groups of people came later. They taught us the African ways. We taught it to the Asian man, and so on and so forth. That's why they didn't have these things before that. And Africans on record had it way before that. Any questions, my friend? It's a fucking no-brainer. Read a fucking book before you listen to Captain fucking Hook. Shit. And then they make these sissy movies like Star Wars. And put blacks beneath whites and fucking aliens and Asians. And the white savior will save the world when it's the white occultist that made the movie, that controls the civic institutions and your perspectives and who's the heroes in the news. If the truth about Star Wars was told, it will tell the tale of a long line of black African Jedis and the rise of a bunch of unscrupulous Africans who then in turn taught the white colonists from the ancient world how to be an unscrupulous heathen and justify it with their inferior philosophy. When the white man was looking at the African philosophy, they said, oh, this one sounds good. It makes us look good. It goes along with our pagan culture and what we're doing right here and how we're stealing and raping and pillaging. We'll take on that philosophy. It's a fucking no-brainer. It's a fucking no-brainer. And what they're doing makes any honest black martial artist want to say racist shit. Period. What they're doing makes any honest black martial artist want to say racist shit, and any honest martial artist of any other race feel ashamed. Because not only is it painfully obvious that their races were expelled by a race that was tougher, meaner, and had greater warriors than theirs, but their race sunk to the low level of lying about it and trying to make it seem like it was the other way around. That black Africans started in Africa, somehow they lost but remained in the same place, and everyone else won but left the land with the most resources, the most wildlife. Does that make any sense to you? Of course it doesn't. It's nonsense. It's illogical madness. Quit being racist. Quit lying about history. Quit lying about martial arts and quit pretending you're better than me when you're hiding from my challenge like a little itty bitty chihuahua with its tail between its legs after it observes the skills of the leopard. I said people shouldn't be judged by how quick they can strike, and that being tall and big, you shouldn't be valued over being little. You should value intellect over superstition. These kind of Masonic philosophies that they're pushing. So let's look at this, shall we? First we'll look at how the world is, and we'll look at how it was, and who used to rule back then when there was a natural order, and who rules now that there's an artificial order based on treachery and, trickery and quote-unquote intellect over quote-unquote superstition from a Masonic perspective. So the world is ruled by these kind of shorter guys, from the Napoleons to the Bill Gates to the Rockefellers and the Kissingers, these kind of short little feeble guys who brag about how quote-unquote smart they are and how deserving they are. And there's 100 million preventable deaths every year. There's a bunch of martial arts dojos taught by these shorter guys, short Asian guys, short white guys, albeit short black guys, short Hispanics, and so on. Now, bear in mind that they completely disregard the fact that I say that my beliefs in reality are that, your devotion to God through Christianity is what matters. Not you're pushing your propaganda through the church or your secret society lies, under the guise of Christianity, but your actual Christian devotion to the truth and to God is what makes a man, is the scale of a man. Now, the scale of a warrior, which can also reflect a form of intellect, which arguably is the highest form. So on one level, they are right that your ability to perform martial arts does seem to reflect the highest form of intellect. Not necessarily accomplishment, because technically you could create a cure if you created it yourself, and it could save more lives than martial arts action and martial arts prowess. Fine. But the highest scale of a man, other than the few men who create these super cures or whatever, is martial arts. So there's room for the kind of geeky nerd, feeble type guy to achieve through morality and Christian values. And there's room for a tall guy to achieve. There's also room for a shorter guy to outmaneuver a taller guy and in their martial arts and win in sparring and display the martial arts skills, the universal skills, the multiple skills, the different skills, the transferable skills of martial arts to beat taller guys, and we've seen this in sparring before. These people want you to believe that all tall guys win all short guys in sparring, and that it's not fair. That there aren't countless small guys who make it to the finals in Kumite and the Olympics and what have you. But that it's all tall guys and it's not fair to the small guy. This is absolute nonsense. When you really look at this, they are tipping it in favor of the small guy. Ever since the world became an abominable Freemason-run planet, small people have been in charge. And they're going to start crying about how it's not fair for me to highlight the truth because it makes them look bad and it might interfere with their ability to continue eugenics and make themselves look good. The little man complex, exactly. Sad. Because people wouldn't say the little man complex if these little men didn't have a complex, now would they? Stop letting your complex get in the way. I don't care how short or tall you are. I don't care what race you are. I care about the truth. Now let's also look at this just from, the scale of my story. I'm one of the most righteous men in America as uncontrolled opposition. Very few people, if any, have ever done and accomplished what I have. I have every martial artist in America afraid to accept my challenge. No martial artist has ever done that. That by itself is the greatest achievement in martial arts history in America. Number 2, I have a $3,000 challenge which no martial artist has ever done, and I have them hiding. Number 3, I am covertly drugged. Now, all the while I am shunned by women, the best years of my life gone forever, marginalized, not given credit. Why? Because these little guys with their little complexes, or rather big complexes, have kept me from my rightful place in society, while they hoarded all the money, the pussy, and the fame, which has resulted in this abhorrent eugenic society that kills 100 million innocent people in a preventable way every year. So basically, when you break it down in a nutshell, the little guys say it is not, says a group of little guys have said to the most righteous man, who happens to be a tall guy, that what he's doing is not fair because it takes away their respect. It takes from their respect and gives it to where the respect should be. So it's not fair. And to set the example by, a truthful example in the future will keep a bunch of small criminals, Al Capone types, Meyer Lansky types, Lucky Luciano, these kind of midget criminal scum who are in secret societies, from pushing everybody around. That is their argument. Now let's look at this. What is sports? Look at football. Some mini-me fucking coach telling a bunch of big, burly linemen and football players what to do. Some mini-me coach in basketball telling a bunch of fucking big basketball players, tall basketball players, what to do. A bunch of mini-me's in boxing telling a bunch of big, burly boxers what to do. That is the standard. The mini-me. The rule of the mini-me in sports, religion, in science, and so on. And they collaborate with each other to make sure it's that way. Very few tall people are in secret societies. Just because Shaq is a Mason doesn't mean that the Masons aren't disproportionately small. I assure you they are. That's how it is. That's why they want to value intellect and trickery, and they help each other with their trickery. Oh, let's trick everyone into thinking that we're the best. We'll say top martial arts challenge isn't fair. We won't go on TV and say that because we'll look fucking stupid, but we'll say that. We might have some fucking knucklehead go on TV and say something similar to that because they're a knucklehead anyway. What do they have to lose? But if an intellectual goes on TV and says, I do declare that Chukwuemeka is wrong for A, B, and C, they would look like a complete moron to every scholar in the scientific community who have already established thoroughly that history's greatest warriors tended to be taller people.
Countless documentaries and books said that these people had the advantage over those people because they were taller, they were stronger, they were greater warriors. Civilization was founded by people like me, who were greater warriors than everyone else. Warrior pharaohs, warrior kings, men who achieved the highest status in their communities and had the admiration of potential wives. They had the pick of the litter, and everyone wanted to be them. That is when the world was a great place where natural deaths were frequent. Now we live in this artificial, pharmaceutical ninny state where artificial orders and fucking ecosystems are at play, and there are eugenic deaths everywhere you look. So again, I ask you people, why on earth is my martial arts challenge not fair? Why is telling the truth not fair? Why is running psychops on people and covertly drugging them fair, while telling the truth is not fair? Why following the traditions of the most righteous men in history not fair, but following the Masonic traditions of Francis Galton, Nathan Bedford Forrest, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Harry S. Truman fair? Nonsense.
My viewers, real TIs, pay close attention to what I say. I will talk slowly. This is how a child prodigy who grew up to be an adult genius, the top martial artist and an undefeated debater against the New World Order with all of their quote-unquote experts and resources, does it. I want all TIs to try to do what I've done. I've definitively proven, even to the most ignorant and those who are completely and hopelessly in denial, that I am correct. Furthermore, just like with my top martial artist challenge, I did not only defeat them and have them hiding, but I demonstrated to you all, beyond any doubt, beyond even the slightest bit of reasonable doubt, that they understand the significance of my key points. That is why they have been caught time and time again trolling, lying, drugging, and cheating. That's how you do it. You not only prove them wrong, but you prove them cowards who know you're right and resort to despicable means to try to cover it up and give themselves a public relations facelift. That's how you do it, people. That's how you do it. And you tell other people to download your videos. And you make an extremely damning video playlist while you do it. And then you make another divinely damning video playlist while you do it. Now let's look at this, shall we? There will be those liars and cheaters that I have crushed, vanquished, and conquered beyond any doubt, who will say, well, what you're about to say or what you're saying is going to put your race at odds with every other one. To those people with a smile on my face, I tell you, we are already at odds with every other race because we take the brunt of the New World Order, which means every other race either benefits more or suffers less as a result of the New World Order. Think about that. They either benefit more, they're making more money, their race looks better, and they get more out of it, or they suffer less. Less of their people die, they're less exploited than Africa and what have you. Then black people. So now let's look at this, shall we? The very first point is really all I need to say. Long ago, the only time when there was ever a level playing field, blacks vanquished and expelled the ancestors of every other race in the world, using mind, body, and soul. Period. I don't have to say anything else. But let's overkill this, shall we? Now, I'm not a racist myself, but part of the story is the reason, the underlying cause, the root cause for black people
taken the brunt of the New World Order, and there are many lessons to be learned from this unavoidable, irrefutable, incontrovertible fact. The greatest academic achievers as a group are Nigerians, though many other races come from abject poverty, destitution, turmoil, war-torn nations, what have you. Yet Nigerians outperform them all. And no matter what happens in the future, that is just like Africans expelling every other race. There's no way to change that. There's no way to correct it. Any attempts would just further prove the point that you were defeated and you understood the significance, so you bothered to try to fabricate, falsify, cover up, and play it off. With that being said, who are the greatest civil rights activists in America? Which is an example of soul, the morality of soul. So we started with history's mind, body, and soul. Black people win. Morality and soul in America, black people win too. Why? Because the religious civil rights activists, who are known as the greatest civil rights activists, no other civil rights activist even has a day of the year, not at this point, were two black people. Martin Luther King, a Christian who spoke from the perspective of spirituality and religion, and Malcolm X, a Muslim who, ding, 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 spoke from the perspective of spirituality and religion. So now, check mind, check soul. Let's look at bodies, shall we? The greatest athletes, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, in the most commonly practiced sports, are black people. And having conquered Bruce Lee's achievements by far, the top martial artist, even though many black people go into boxing, football, and basketball, not martial arts, is now a black person. And I guarantee you, they will falsify, fabricate, and cover. In fact, I've caught them, and that is what my divinely damning playlist proves definitively, and my extremely damning video playlist proves. Now, many of you say, well, he's racist. How is pointing out the facts racist? I want you to show me, how is somebody who says that he only values morality and devotion to God, who's simply pointing out the facts, how is that a racist thing to do? Doing eugenics as a result of lies and propaganda designed to give your race and the races closer to you control over the world? Now that is racism. Scientific racism. Historical racism, bias, prejudice, and oppression. That is racism. What I am doing is pointing out the facts and clarifying to you why the triangle of the New World Order is the Jews, the whites, and the Asians, the two people closest to them, especially when you see how they deny their relation to black people. Show me a white Jew, show me a large group of white Jews that acknowledges the Afro part of the Afro-Asiatic dialect. You're probably not going to find it. Show me a large group of white people that acknowledges the Afro part of the Afro-Asiatic dialect. You're not going to find it. Look how the black Jews are treated in Israel. Their blood dumped out. The blood that they donated for the needy, dumped out. Yes, they have proven time and time again that they see it that way. Whether or not that's how they see it. Look at Hitler. He said, we're closest related to the Jews. He used the swastika, an Eastern symbol. Excuse me, not the Jews, the Asians. And the Jews, right, they see themselves as people that mix with the Asians or that are heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy. You have to really do your research to understand that. So, and of course it overlaps in many places. Masonry, mental health, all the Jewish psychiatrists. Just Google the Jews' contribution to psychology and psychiatry, Franz Kalman, Freud, and so on. Countless examples. So, when you look at this thing, Why did they go all the way across to get Africans of all other races? They could have easily done the same treachery in Asia, in America, where the natives were right there. They have a superficial reason. Well, the natives wanted to fight back. Did the natives ever successfully overthrow the white man and take a whole country for themselves like the Haitians? No. So the argument that, well, it's because the blacks were more submissive than, the natives makes no sense. None. The biggest, most violent, and the biggest civil rights activists in American history were the most submissive race? No. They wanted to put the people that they believed were above them below them. That's all there is to it. And when they did the math, which isn't very hard, they saw that the Nubians and the Egyptians were very much like the West Africans. And these were the Africans who had the least contact with the Eurasian world and the Middle East. Because they were on West Africa. They're on the dark part of the quote-unquote dark continent. Very straightforward, no-brainer. Also, Islam was expanding at the time through the middle belt of Africa. Look up the relevance of Timbuktu, the libraries the Muslims built, and so on. So now I want you to ask yourselves, why these sniveling liars, these utter cowards, hit for my challenge? And ask them, if you couldn't stop him from hitting you first, how would you stop him from stabbing you or hitting you with a spear? Why do every martial arts tradition, pretty much, almost every martial arts style, practice with sparring? I once was told a tale of a gym, a taekwondo gym, that they gave rank based upon who was better at sparring. If you beat a black belt, you got the black belt. That's how serious it was. Because sparring was the complete and total demonstration of martial arts excellence. It was the most honorable way to demonstrate martial arts skills and achievement. Now, keep in mind that Bruce Lee himself has said that he is not the fastest. And for those of you who are diehard Bruce Lee fans, you know what I'm talking about. He's said publicly on record that he's not the fastest fighter, but he is smart, and that's why he wins. Well, who the hell is smarter than me? Who the hell is wiser than me? Especially in the form of intelligence that relates to martial arts? Nobody. Why did they hide? Does it not prove my exact point that all of you know deep in your souls? All of you are very well aware of? That they're liars, cowards, dishonorable cheaters who will not give the black man his credit because it will slow them down. It will hinder their ability, hinder their progress, the process of extorting the black man and denying him his credit. And why wouldn't they give me my credit? And what does this say about other black people in a world that is dominated by Asians, whites, and Jews from the top down? Why wouldn't they? Well, it's very simple. Because they want to make their peoples look good. And they want to make black people seem like some kind of dumbed down animal. Show them, no, I guarantee you, no non-black person before seeing my videos has ever heard of the Nigerians outperforming every other group in America academically. You never even heard of it. Why is that? But you've seen black people portrayed as stupid time and time again. And Africans portrayed as goofy and out of touch and trying to be cool and trying to fit in. Time and time again. You all know that I'm right. You all know that there is no playing a race card when it comes to a $3,000 challenge. But there is pointing out racism in society's failure to admit the relevance of that challenge. Those cowards.